Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Expensive Coins World, where we dive deep into the world of coins, collectibles, and their that 1990 for Australian 5-cent coin, though modest in denomination, represents a fascinating intersection of national identity, artistic precision, and the enduring legacy of monarchic symbolism in modern Australian numismatics. This diminutive silver-colored coin, part of Australia's decimal currency system introduced in 1966, carries with it the weight of tradition, national fauna, and the unmistakable image of Queen Elizabeth II, sovereign not only of the United Kingdom, but also the constitutional monarch of Australia at the time. Struck by the Royal Australian Mint in Canberra, the 5-cent coin of 1994 was produced in large quantities for general circulation. Its composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a silvery luster often mistaken for pure nickel or other alloys. It weighs 2.83 grams, has a diameter of 19.41 millimeters, and features a reeded milled edge consistent with other coins in its series. The obverse side of the 1994 5-cent coin features a right-facing effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by the British sculptor Raphael Makhlouf. This portrait, introduced in 1985, is noted for its elegance and detail, portraying the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown embedded with 1,333 diamonds. Surrounding her image is the inscription, Elizabeth to Australia 1990. For this side of the coin pays homage to Australia's status as a constitutional monarchy and a member of the Commonwealth. While there is no direct connection to the French motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, one may interpret Australia's stable democratic governance, commitment to human rights, and cultural diversity as a living embodiment of those universal principles, though rooted in a distinctly Westminster system of governance. Designed by Stuart Devlin, a goldsmith and renowned coin designer, the reverse of the coin depicts the short-beaked Echidna tachyglossus aculeatus, a monotreme native to Australia, curled in a defensive pose with its spines radiating outward and snout protruding. The echidna is framed by the denomination. This imagery celebrates Australia's unique and ancient wildlife, emphasizing the nation's ecological heritage. The echidna, together with the platypus on the 20-cent coin, symbolizes Australia's evolutionary uniqueness and reinforces national pride through its distinct biological lineage. It is important to clarify that while Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, liberty, equality, fraternity is the official motto of France, it is not inscribed on any Australian currency, nor is the French engraver Joaquin Jiménez Lagerfeuille, often associated with euro coins and modern French design, involved in Australian coin production. However, in a broader philosophical sense, one might reflect on how values such as liberty and equality are echoed in Australia's multicultural democracy and open society. If one were to view this coin through a symbolic lens, perhaps as a philosophical meditation, the values of fraternity and freedom can be seen in the representation of indigenous fauna, egalitarian monarchy, and the balance between nature and nationhood. In 1994, Australia was in a period of relative economic prosperity and political stability under Prime Minister Paul Keating. Discussions around becoming a republic were gaining momentum, culminating in the 1999 referendum, which was ultimately unsuccessful. The Queen's image on coins like this 5-cent piece thus became part of a larger conversation about national identity, a conversation that continues into the 21st century. This coin, then, is more than just a means of exchange. It's a cultural artifact, bridging colonial legacy, modern democracy, and a distinct Australian ethos of 2025, circulated 1994. Australian 5-cent coins generally hold face value in everyday use. However, pristine uncirculated or proof coins from mint sets can fetch higher values among collectors, typically $1 to $5 AUD, depending on condition, rarity, and mint packaging. Era coins, such as off-center strikes or die clashes, can command significantly higher prices in numismatic circles, Though small and easily overlooked, the 1994 5-cent coin is a microcosm of Australian identity. From the regal symbolism of Queen Elizabeth II to the primal tenacity of the echidna, this coin encapsulates a balance between institution and individuality, heritage and habitat. When viewed with philosophical depth, it even allows space for interpretation through the lens of liberty, equality, and fraternity, values not etched on its surface, but perhaps present in the society that issued it. The next up top in the realm of numismatic curiosities and cultural cross-pollinations, the 2008 Australian 5-cent coin stands as a miniature time capsule of tradition, monarchy, and modern democratic values. Bearing the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley, the obverse of this coin continues the legacy of royal imagery that connects Australia's constitutional monarchy to the British crown. The Queen faces right, her portrait, framed by the legend Elizabeth II Australia 2008, which encapsulates the unity of the Commonwealth nation under a single sovereign in that year. This coin, made of copper nickel alloy, has a weight of 2.83 grams, a diameter of 19.41 millimeters, and a smooth edge. And while it may appear mundane to the casual observer, it plays a role in the daily transactions that shape Australian civic life. The reverse, featuring the instantly recognizable echidna design by Stuart Devlin, celebrates Australia's unique biodiversity and its commitment to natural heritage. This spiny anteater, rendered in fine detail, stands not just as an emblem of fauna, but as a quiet assertion of identity and difference in a globalized world. Overlaying this physical coin with the phrase Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, a motto of the French Republic dating back to the Revolution of 1789, introduces a philosophical juxtaposition. Though not inscribed on the coin itself, the invocation of this French triad implies a deeper layer, perhaps a symbolic lens through which the coin's imagery may be reinterpreted. Liberty, as represented by a sovereign who reigned for decades with both tradition and reform. Equality, embedded in the coin's role in egalitarian economic exchange. And fraternity, captured in Australia's multicultural and democratic society, where even a coin unites people of all walks of life in shared value and utility. The mention of Republic and Lagerfeuille, likely referencing French medalist Philippe Lagrelle, is a poetic projection, intertwining European revolutionary ideals and modern civic identity with Commonwealth tradition. Although Australia is not a republic, its ongoing dialogues about becoming one evoke the philosophical tensions between inherited monarchy and democratic renewal. Thus, the 2008 5-cent coin becomes more than legal tender. It is a layered object of contemplation, connecting the wildlife and sovereign imagery of Australia with broader global ideals of governance, freedom, and human unity. Its continued presence in circulation may seem humble, but the coin whispers history, philosophy, art, and politics to those who choose to listen. Every mark, every design element speaks to layers of meaning, local and global, historical and ideological, making it not merely a monetary tool, but a tactile echo of civilization. The next up top 3, the 2014 Australian 5-cent coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II, is part of the standard circulating coinage of Australia. Struck by the Royal Australian Mint, while the obverse of the coin traditionally showcases the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II. Designed by British sculptor Ian Rank Broadley, this coin's description, intriguingly, incorporates the French national motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, and the name Lagerfeuille, suggesting a symbolic or thematic overlay with French Republican ideals, possibly hypothetical, allegorical, or used for artistic or collector reinterpretation. On the standard 2014 5-cent coin, the obverse features Her Majesty facing right, inscribed with Elizabeth II and Australia 2014, while the reverse, designed by Stuart Devlin, shows the iconic echidna, one of Australia's native monotremes, surrounded by radiating quills, symbolizing Australia's unique biodiversity and the nation's emphasis on ecological identity. The coin is minted in copper nickel, weighs 2.83 grams, and has a diameter of 19.41 millimeters. While this coin is typically circulated. Numismatists also explore alternative or fantasy pieces that blend real and symbolic iconography, such as the inclusion of republic, referencing a republic, and the motto liberty, equality, fraternity, originally adopted during the French Revolution and institutionalized in the French Republic. The mention of Lagerfeuille could relate to Sylvie Lagerfeuille, a French coin designer, or symbolically represent artistic influences from France, potentially through fantasy or commemorative design not officially sanctioned by the Royal Australian Mint. In historical context, 2014 was a year of considerable global reflection, including the centenary of World War I, which may have inspired alternative medallions or art tokens bearing Franco-Australian themes of liberty and remembrance. From a collector's standpoint, if such a coin exists bearing both Australian and French Republican symbolism, it would likely be a fantasy coin, token, or private commemorative issue rather than an official legal tender. These types of hybrid representations fascinate collectors interested in political symbolism, post-colonial transitions, or speculative what-if designs about a Republican Australia. The continued presence of Queen Elizabeth II on Australian coinage during this period reflects Australia's constitutional monarchy and its historical ties to Britain, though Republican debates have remained a recurrent theme in Australian political discourse. Thus, this 5-cent coin, whether standard or allegorically enhanced, encapsulates not only economic utility but a canvas for ideological expression, national identity, and artistic reinterpretation that bridges continents and centuries. The next up top for the coin described as Liberty Eaglite for turn at 5 cents, 2003 Australia Elizabeth II Republic Lagerfeuille appears to be a blend of numismatic elements from multiple nations, leading to confusion. Let's clarify each of these elements in detail and then offer a combined explanation, including historical, political, and cultural context. Understanding the coin's components, real and symbolic 5-cent denomination is standard in Australian coinage and also used in other countries like the US, Canada, and parts of Europe. Australia issued a 5-cent coin in 2003 featuring Queen Elizabeth II as part of its regular currency. These coins are part of the decimal currency system adopted in 1966.2. Australia and Elizabeth I Australian 5-cent coin from 2003 features a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse head side, as she was the constitutional monarch of Australia until her passing in 2022. The reverse typically depicts an echidna, a native spiny anteater of Australia, and was designed by Stuart Devlin. There was no special commemorative 5-cent coin issued in Australia in 2003.3 Liberté Eaglite. For Ternate, this is the national motto of France, translating to liberty, equality, fraternity. It originated during the French Revolution and represents the foundational values of the French Republic. It does not appear on Australian coins. If this phrase appears on the coin, it might be a fantasy piece or art token, a misattribution or confusion with French euro coins, which do have this motto on their edges or faces, or possibly a medallion or non-circulating commemorative token. For Republic, Lagerfeuille Republic reinforces the French national connection, again suggesting French rather than Australian origin. Lagerfeuille refers to Fabienne Lagerfeuille, a known French medalist and sculptor, who contributed to coin and medal design in France. She is not associated with Australian coins. Historical and cultural context 2003 coinage overview in 2003. Australia was still using Queen Elizabeth II's fourth coinage portrait, designed by Ian Rank Broadley IRB. These coins were struck at the Royal Australian Mint. They were standard circulation issues and composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Weighing to 0.83 grams and with a diameter of 19.41 millimeters, there were no special editions or commemoratives minted for the 5-cent coin that year. The design remained unchanged since 1966, with the obverse featuring the monarch and the reverse showing the echidna. Meanwhile, in France, the motto Liberté Eaglite for Ternate continued to feature prominently on official government documents, coins, and public buildings. French euro coins in 2003 used national designs, some of which were created by designers like Lagerfeld. Possible explanation of the coin's nature given the mix of French and Australian elements. This 5-cent coin seems to be either a misidentified or altered coin, possibly an Australian 5-cent that was engraved or overstruck with French motifs, a fantasy or souvenir token, not issued by an official mint, perhaps intended to celebrate ideals or serve as a collector's novelty, a conceptual hybrid, blending symbols from different countries perhaps for artistic, commemorative, or satirical reasons. Numismatic value and rarity. Genuine 2003 Australian 5-cent coin has minimal collector value unless it features an error like off-center strikes or double dice. If this coin bears unusual inscriptions like Liberté Égalité Fraternité or Republique Lagerfeld, it's most likely a non-official item, and its value depends on artistic appeal, novelty, or rarity among collectors of tokens. There is no record of an official coin from Australia in 2003 bearing all these French Republican motifs. Conclusion. 30-minute educational summary. The coin you referenced blends French revolutionary ideals, Liberté Égalité Fraternité, a known French medalist Fabienne Lagerfeld, and elements of Australian sovereign coinage Elizabeth II, 5 cents, 2003. However, such a combination does not exist in official numismatic records, leading us to believe this is a symbolic, artistic, or novelty piece, possibly intended to provoke thought on republics, monarchy, and liberty. This hybrid identity invites reflection on how coinage functions not only as currency, but also as a medium of political and cultural messaging. A monarch's portrait Elizabeth II might symbolize continuity and order, while revolutionary phrases like France's national motto symbolize freedom and radical change. When merged, they may suggest tension or harmony between contrasting ideals. Thus, even if unofficial, this coin can be appreciated as a philosophical or artistic artifact, prompting questions about governance, sovereignty, identity, and design in the modern age. The next up, top 5. The Liberté Égalité Fraternité 10 cents 2006 coin you refer to appears to be a hybrid or symbolic interpretation of various elements drawn from different coinage systems combining the national motto of France, Liberté Égalité Fraternité, with the monarchic profile of Queen Elizabeth II from Australia's decimal coinage system, and associating it with the artistic lineage of Bruno Lagerfeld, a renowned French medalist. Though such a coin doesn't exist officially in the Australian Mint catalogue as minted for circulation, the concept allows us to delve deeply into the philosophies, historical roots, artistic interpretations, and symbolic amalgamation of French Republican ideals, British Commonwealth legacy, and contemporary numismatic artistry, forming a richly layered narrative, starting with the phrase Liberté Égalité Fraternité. This triad of principles was officially adopted during the French Revolution in the late 18th century and became the cornerstone of the French Republic. It translates to liberty, equality, fraternity, emphasizing personal freedom, social justice, and communal solidarity. These ideals stood in stark contrast to monarchy and aristocracy, advocating for democratic governance. Over the centuries, this motto has transcended France, becoming a symbol of human rights and democratic values globally. Its appearance on a coin, particularly one featuring the British monarch, could be symbolic, if not ironic, illustrating the convergence of differing political ideologies, a republic's egalitarian ethos alongside the constitutional monarchy, represented by Queen Elizabeth II. On the other hand, the 2006 Australian 10-cent coin, part of Australia's decimal currency introduced in 1966, traditionally features the profile of Queen Elizabeth II, the reigning monarch and head of state. At the time, her effigy was designed by Ian Rank Broadley, who succeeded Raphael Makhlouf and Arnold Machin in updating the royal image for Commonwealth coinage. The obverse shows the Queen facing right, crowned, and surrounded by the inscription Elizabeth to Australia 2006. Australia, despite being a democratic nation, maintains ties with the British monarchy as part of the Commonwealth realm, blending democratic governance with ceremonial monarchy. The 10-cent coin's reverse, meanwhile, features a lyrebird, iconic native Australian bird designed by Stuart Devlin, who crafted many of Australia's original decimal coin designs. The lyrebird, known for its elaborate tail feathers and incredible mimicry, symbolizes the uniqueness of Australian fauna and ecological heritage. Now, introducing the name Lagerfeuille suggests an overlay of French artistic philosophy, Bruno. Lagerfeuille is a contemporary French medalist known for blending classical allegory with modern themes in numismatics. His works are often found in Monnaie de Paris issues France's National Mint, where coins double as both currency and high art. He is recognized for detailed and expressive representations of Marianne, the personification of the French Republic, embodying liberty and reason on French euros. If such a Lagerfeuille-styled coin existed with Queen Elizabeth II on one side and Republican ideals or symbols on the other, it would represent a coinage fusion of two nations and value systems. The elegance and symbolism of French revolutionary heritage and the refined portraiture and sovereignty of British monarchic design. Such a coin might reflect a commemorative issue or artistic project, rather than a circulating piece. In the context of 2006, both Australia and France were deeply entrenched in global politics and culture. Australia, led by Prime Minister John Howard, was engaged in international coalitions, economic reform, and grappling with Indigenous reconciliation. The Queen's continued presence on coinage reflected the cultural legacy of colonialism, but also the legal reality of the Australian Constitution, which retains the monarch as head of state. France, meanwhile, was experiencing domestic debates around secularism, immigration, and integration, as well as reaffirming its national values in a globalized, often turbulent world. The motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité was inscribed on public buildings, official documents, and yes coinage as an ever-present reminder of the Republic's commitment to justice and democracy. Symbolically, a 10-cent coin bearing both Queen Elizabeth II and French Republican inscriptions could signify the coexistence of varied systems of governance, where monarchy and republic are not antagonists, but cohabiting forces in the modern political landscape. The coin could be interpreted as a numismatic dialogue between nations, Australia representing a realm that evolved within the British constitutional framework, and France representing revolutionary rebirth and self-determination. Such a coin might serve as a commemorative piece for diplomatic milestones, such as anniversaries of Franco-Australian relations, cultural exchange programs, or shared contributions to global events like the United Nations or peacekeeping missions. Further, one must not ignore the material and economic significance of a 10-cent coin. While low in monetary value, such coins are essential to everyday commerce, representing access, equality, and economic participation for all citizens. In both France and Australia, decimal coinage systems were designed to be practical, universally understandable, and egalitarian, mirroring the democratic ethos embedded in the idea of liberty and equality. Moreover, coins serve as public art, circulating millions of miniature sculptures in the hands of citizens, silently reinforcing cultural and political identity. Artists like Lagerfeuille elevate this function by introducing philosophical and allegorical depth, while sculptors like Devlin brought national character and symbolism into even the most minor denominations. In conclusion, while no known official 2006 Australian 10-cent coin features the motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, or bears the artistic signature of Lagerfeuille, such a coin, whether conceptually proposed, hypothetically imagined, or artistically reinterpreted, becomes a canvas where historical legacies, artistic traditions, political ideologies, and national identities converge. It represents a fusion of monarchy and republic, art and utility, symbolism and sovereignty. By examining such a coin in rich detail, we not only appreciate numismatics as a field of aesthetic and monetary study, but also recognize how tiny metal discs become messengers of heritage, ideology, and global interconnection. The next up, top 6, the 1981 20-cent coin described as bearing the inscription Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, alongside the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II and the words Republic and Lagerfeuille, offers a fascinating fusion of contrasting numismatic traditions, iconography, and ideological legacies. At its core, the coin appears to reflect an artistic or philosophical amalgamation of French Republican ideals and British Australian monarchy, which is highly unusual given the historical and political separations between these traditions. The French motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, first officially adopted during the French Revolution and later enshrined in the French Constitution, evokes the foundational principles of democracy, human rights, and civil equality. Its appearance on a coin supposedly minted in Australia under the reign of Elizabeth II in 1981 introduces an intellectual juxtaposition, suggesting a deeper narrative or symbolic commentary on governance, unity, and perhaps even the aspirational ideals of post-colonial identity. In 1981, Australia was still firmly part of the Commonwealth realm, recognizing Queen Elizabeth II as its sovereign. The obverse of Australian coins at the time featured the familiar Arnold Machen or Raphael Makhlouf effigy of the Queen, depending on the year. The real Australian 20-cent coin, introduced in 1966 with decimalization, typically features a platypus on the reverse and lacks any direct reference to republicanism or revolutionary slogans. The inclusion of Republic and the name Lagerfeuille, likely referencing Joaquin Jiménez Lagerfeuille, a notable French mint engraver associated with modern Euro and French coinage design, suggests that this coin is more of an artistic rendering or concept piece rather than an officially circulated currency. It's possible that such a coin exists in the realm of commemorative or fantasy issues designed for collectors to ponder political ideals and numismatic evolution. Analyzing the coin as a metaphor, the design could reflect a desire to bridge monarchical continuity with republican aspiration, symbolizing the tensions and conversations surrounding Australia's identity during the late 20th century. The early 1980s were a time of renewed debate about Australia's constitutional future and its potential transition toward a republic. Overlaying revolutionary French ideals onto an Australian coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II may be a nod to this national introspection. The name Lagerfeuille adds artistic gravitas, aligning the piece with modern European design aesthetics, perhaps implying that the values of liberty and equality transcend national boundaries and can coexist with constitutional monarchy. Or alternatively, challenge it from a numismatic and cultural perspective. The hypothetical coin's design juxtaposes distinct ideological worlds. The royal effigy denotes continuity, tradition, and imperial lineage, while the revolutionary motto stands for rupture, people's sovereignty, and radical egalitarianism. The inscription Republic, especially when featured alongside a monarch's image, creates a visual contradiction that forces the observer to reconsider historical binaries. Could this be a commentary on the coexistence of old world and new, or a subtle critique of inherited power in modern democracies? If we analyze this coin through the lens of symbolic numismatics, its very existence might serve as a challenge to the viewer, a meditation on governance, freedom, and unity. The inscription Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité may be less about literal French identity and more about the universal aspirations that underlie all free societies. The choice of the 20-cent denomination further supports this idea, not so high in value as to be elitist, yet not as humble as the smallest denominations, perhaps representing the working middle, the backbone of any republic or constitutional monarchy alike. The coin, then, becomes not just currency but conversation, a minted metaphor. In conclusion, while no such coin is known to exist in Australia's official numismatic catalogues for the year 1981 bearing both royal and republican imagery with the name Lagerfeuille, its conceptual implications are vast and layered. Whether viewed as a fantasy coin, commemorative token, or artistic critique, it symbolizes a dialogue between legacy and change, monarchy and republic, Australia and France, and most broadly, power and people. It is a coin that asks more than it answers, and that very ambiguity is its greatest value, not in silver or cents, but in the rich terrain of ideas it invites us to explore. The next up, top 7, the 2004 Australian 20-cent coin bearing the image of Queen Elizabeth II, often mistakenly associated with the motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité and the term Republic, presents a fascinating intersection of numismatic design, history, symbolism, and public misconception. It is important to clarify that while these French revolutionary ideals are emblematic of liberty, equality, and brotherhood core democratic values, they are not officially featured on Australian coinage. Their presence in this context is symbolic or interpretative, possibly reflecting the universal resonance of such ideals. The actual 2004 20-cent coin of Australia is a legal tender issued by the Royal Australian Mint, featuring on its obverse the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted by Ian Rank Broadley with the legend, Elizabeth to Australia 2004. The reverse displays the iconic platypus design, a native Australian monotremes swimming underwater, designed by Stuart Devlin, the official goldsmith and jeweler to Her Majesty the Queen. The platypus motif is symbolic of Australia's rich biodiversity and uniqueness, underlining the distinctiveness of its national identity and natural heritage. While the coin is primarily utilitarian in function, it also holds cultural and historical weight. The 2004 minting saw high circulation numbers, meaning the coin is common and not of high numismatic value unless in mint or proof condition. Yet, in the context of socio-political interpretation, one might see the coin as a paradox. It features a British monarch representative of inherited monarchy and colonial history on one side, and a symbol of Australian independence and natural heritage on the other. This duality can be interpreted as a microcosm of Australia's evolving identity, caught between its colonial past and republican future. The terms republic and lager fool, although not physically present on this coin, might arise from misinterpretation or symbolic projection, perhaps inspired by coins of the French Republic, where liberté, égalité, fraternité, and engraver names such as lager fool, often associated with French euro coins, are officially used. This blending of symbolic languages reflects a growing global tendency to seek unity in democratic values across coinage and state imagery. Furthermore, the 20-cent denomination is part of the decimal currency system Australia adopted in 1966, replacing the pound system, marking a critical shift towards modernization and economic reform. Its enduring design, largely unchanged over decades, demonstrates continuity and public acceptance. In conclusion, while the 2004 Australian 20-cent coin is not directly tied to French Republican mottos or symbolism, viewing it through such a lens opens a broader philosophical discussion about the power of currency as a vessel for cultural memory, state identity, and shared ideals. The coin serves not only as a transactional object, but as a national artifact, subtly narrating Australia's journey between tradition and transformation, unity and diversity, the monarchy and the republic.